Hey everybody, Evangelist Nick Garrett. So as many of you know, there is a movement that is challenging the heliocentric nature of planetary sciences, particularly the shape, specifically ours. I want to zoom out, though, and take a global view of this, pun intended, from two standpoints. The first, let's talk about America through the lens of Sir John Glubb's late 1970s book, The Fate of Empires. Listen to what he says about the lifespan of empires. Assyria, 247 years. Persia, 208. Greece, 231. Roman Republic, 233. Roman Empire, 207. Arab Empire, 246. Mamluk Empire, 267. Ottoman, 250. Spain, 250. Romanov Russia, 234, Britain, 250. So when did our time period start? That's kind of an important question. Was it 1776 with the Declaration of Independence? Was it 1803, the Louisiana Purchase that more than doubled the size of our country during Thomas Jefferson's administration? Was it 1823 during the fifth president, James Monroe? In December of that year, he gave a message to Congress, and in it, he put in language that basically said to the European countries, no more colonization in the Western Hemisphere, no more puppet governments, we won't tolerate them. That's a pretty bold statement to make. Was it a little later during the 11th president, James Polk's administration, when Manifest Destiny became a reality, a sea-to-sea country, Atlantic and Pacific? Or was it much more recent? Was it the 19-teens during the Wilson administration when we basically abandoned our republic, established democracy, and a totally new financial system? I don't know the answer. Obviously, it matters, though, doesn't it? So here we get some more sad news. According to Glubb, this life cycle has stages that could help us define our timeline. You see, a nation is born via outburst of unity and pioneering. Whatever made the nation special makes it grow, and it becomes the envy of the world. Next, there is a stage of conquest and wealth expansion. Next, there is an age of affluence. Listen to what Glubb says during the age of affluence. Education undergoes the same gradual transformation. No longer do schools aim at producing brave patriots ready to serve their country. Next in this cycle, we've got outburst and pioneering, age of conquest, age of affluence, is a period he calls high noon. There's enough of that special stuff to keep the country together, but it becomes more defensive in nature, and wealth becomes more important than those principles in public service. You see things like the Great Wall of China, Hadrian's Wall, the Maginot Line in France during the World Wars, our southern border. So after high noon, though, which may not be pretty and signs of collapse already imminent, is an age of intellectualism which accompanies collapse. It's an ironic and interesting phenomenon. In fact, Glubb notes that, quote, the full flowering of Arab and Persian intellectualism did not occur until after its political collapse. Often these intellectuals end up serving strong and not so bright leaders. Now, I want to bring the second point of our discussion that will lead us into this in a way that might make you sick or make you feel relief or wake you up. The term epistemology is the study of knowledge. The study of knowledge reveals that all people desire to know. And epistemology tries to answer certain questions. What is the nature of knowledge? What are the obstacles to attain knowledge? You see, when a country is born, they gather around the same epistemology: bravery, courage, patriotism, freedom, new ways of governing that take into account old ways that have failed, shared religious beliefs, even shared defects and prejudices. During the period of empire known as intellectualism, we see a rise of what's called epistemological relativism, which, like moral relativism, throws the glue that binds a nation and makes it strong into upheaval. Now, FE, FEs is an alternate epistemology, but that doesn't make it bad or wrong. In fact, let me share some of the premises that FE is built upon. Actual beliefs are on a spectrum. There's not one set of beliefs. This is largely driven by the openness and exchange of information that we have because of the internet. We have academy professors, mechanics, scientists, young people with maybe no life experience at all, but a lot of time on their hands to study, all sharing a space and comments. And it doesn't differentiate the accuracy of information or the value of the source of the information. The doctor of physics does not enjoy the benefit of authority over the young autodidact in this world. So all belief systems have this spectrum and different doctrines pieced together. But here are the premises that are unique through any FE. Those in scientific leadership and power, academia and NASA, have power and money and have been corrupted. Because of the collapse of the empire, this particular group, FEs, has noticed cracks in a highly compartmentalized and propagandized system. Compartmentalized means that two people working side by side may never know what each other does. My grandfather made the O-rings for the Apollo rocket, and he had no other connection to it than that. Sometimes, though, compartmentalization is purposely guided from the top of the pyramid to attain a key motive. So two pieces of information that drive toward this unique epistemology of FE: the polar travel of Admiral Richard Byrd and the geopolitics of Antarctica, and Project Paperclip. Byrd's travel reveals a much different picture of the polar regions than was offered to the public over the last 60 years. So kernels of distrust are born. Project Paperclip was a poorly kept secret that at the end of World War II, as the Allies were coming into Berlin from the west and the Russians from the east, they were scooping up scientists, rocket engineers, weapons engineers, bringing them back home to America and Russia, giving them new lives, forgiving them for the past, and placing them in charge of academic and actual pursuits of science with great power, money, and authority. This is where our 2 points converge: fates of empires and epistemology. Briefly, there are two types of power: hard power and soft power. Hard power is like gold currency, tanks, planes, ships. Soft power consists of things like moral authority, credibility and reputation, economic and financial influence, cultural and diplomatic influence. Now, FEs, this particular group of people that propagandists tell us every day are that they're stupid and crazy. How could anyone believe that the earth is flat? They're covering up the fact that the FEs have discovered that the great empire has lost all of its soft power through actions going back to the end of World War II. Starting with, what good could come from bringing them here from Germany after what they did? On one hand, our news sources are revealing the great evil that occurred, and on the other, they were brought in to drive our scientific and academic ships. There it is. Now let's get into the weeds a little bit. So pretty much all of the U.S. soft power, let me remind you: moral authority, credibility and reputation, economic and financial influence, cultural and diplomatic influence. Pretty much all of the U.S.'s soft power during the 1960s was during a time of upheaval. A lot of cultural protests, unwanted war of conquest, was tied up in the whimsical idea that we were still in an age of pioneering in space and the moon, right? Oh, new nation emerging, we're pioneering. But this was in reality covering the cracks that our decline had begun. Now the FEs have pored over all the various stories about what was accomplished and found anomalies different from the stories. They discovered that it was never about pioneering new frontiers, but generating interest in jobs in science, in various fields, to use up the more than $50 million a day that NASA receives to explore space. During that process, they also discovered the multimedia departments that present accomplishments they tout through deceptive film tricks. This part is a fact, and I don't know what it means, but they use CGI and green screens with pretty much everything they shoot from the International Space Station. Now, whether or not that means certain missions are done or not, I don't know. But I know that it makes sense that an organization that big, getting as much money as they get, would want to put out the best product and show the progress they're making so they continue to get the money. So maybe what's happening up there is really happening, but it's very loud and hard to get people to look good on camera because they're floating around. I mean, maybe the cameras don't work up there really, and so they shoot them on the ground. I mean, I know they have a big dark pool that they practice filming in also. I don't know that means they didn't do the things they say they do, but that part of it is certainly fact. So these are the premises that bring us to FEs. I'm not sure if you've ever spoken to one, but they're not stupid at all. Many of them are essentially becoming the scientists of tomorrow with open and free experimentation and critical thinking required of true scientists through history. I mean, think of Galileo being challenged for daring to say, hey, the sun is the center and we revolve around it. Sorry, flat earthers, bad example, I guess, with round planets. But or I forget the guy's name, but it was only 130 years ago, and he developed what was called antisepsis in medicine. Washing your hands, cleaning up blood, not wearing it on your surgical coat to show, how many surgeries you've done. All these people are always shunned by the empire's establishment and the epistemology of the empire. Now, critics of FE mean well. They often make rebuttals that try to disprove this or that, but in truth, their arguments are often based on what are called ad hominem attacks. Their premises begin with the fact that the other person's position is stupid or misguided, or that they are stupid or misguided. In reality, I think those that argue against FE are missing the bigger picture. Maybe it's misguided patriotism. They feel that they need to protect the system because they sense that it is in decline and feel bad about the loss of freedom. So it's like saying, just shut up and stay in your lane. Don't say anything, and maybe we can get a little further down the road. I don't know. So at the end of it all, the FEs say this to everyone they encounter. Hey, authoritative system, we see the cracks in the foundation, compartments. We see the public lying, you're not trustworthy, and are proven to have engaged in public lying. They've poured over hours of data, experiments, recreated them, and sometimes find contrary evidence, gone through thousands of hours of transmissions, and they ultimately say, hey, there is nothing you should believe by me telling you, just look into it. The whole matrix is shot. We're being treated as ignorant sheep. Probably without realizing it, what they've really discovered is that our nation has been trying to play the system of how empires rise and fall to hide the rapid decline of our empire. They've uncovered that on the surface, we're told our epistemology is still pure and righteous, the same one that saw us founded. But in truth, our epistemology is greed, sin, propaganda, and lies, all taking place in a soup of international geopolitics. So what do we do about this? And here's the rub. We have to hold on to God as tightly as we can, because the periods of intellectualism and decadence and collapse will try to pry them from us to the point of our very lives. They give moral relativism, do as thou wilt. They give insufficient naturalism that leads to more lies and stories. Here's the harshest reality of all. The very fact that these things have been happening over the last 60 years has in fact, on the other hand, allowed us to live lives more comfortably than any humans in history. If we're willing to be consistent with our position, we have to say that mutually assured destruction, the fact that we have more nuclear missiles than Russia, and their epistemology 60 years ago, it has benefited us greatly. If we were able to see this and forgive and regain the bravery, courage, and patriotism to restore our empire, Just look at the federal level. Would any of us find it as worth it? That is the scariest reality of all and the scariest objective truth of all. So in the end, it always comes back to sin, needing forgiveness, having our eyes open, and needing to cling to Jesus more than ever. He sits above the epistemologies of empires. Everyone likes to have their theories and ideas, myself included, until we have those trench-like moments in war. In foxholes, there are no atheists. During the decline, it is often too late to turn around and run from the next up-and-comer and call out the name of God. So that is a heavy note to end on. But if you, like me, enjoy the freedom, which is an attribute of God that we share, we're created in the image of God, and we share this attribute of freedom to think all these things and explore all these ideas and take things that are seemingly unrelated and build them into worldview. Yeah, you got to praise God for that. It's an amazing thing. Anyway, I hope I didn't make anybody too angry just by telling the truth. I hope I did the EFIs justice and fairness in presenting their position. And I hope I was not critical of those who debunked the position. I'm a nobody. I have no interest in targeting any individual or individual's channel. Just want to share the truth. And it's a heavy truth, isn't it? It's amazing. Anyway, okay, guys. Talk to you next time.